Let's talk about the Sacramento Kings, previewing their season, the fantasy basketball values of the players on this team. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and there's a hole in my bucket. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we are available on all platforms. We're here to talk about the Sacramento Kings, which is a team that is weird, very weirdly constructed, poorly constructed. I do think that I'm going to give Scott Perry a little bit of grace with this team. I don't really know why, because I'm not sure he's ever proven to be a useful executive. But I think he knows the team is poorly constructed, and he's been saddled with contracts that make no sense. The roster makes no sense. It's incredibly shallow, and the positions don't work. So it's going to be, and I'm not sure his coach is good. So I think this team could be in for a world of pain, even though there's a bunch of really recognizable players and really solid scorers. In the NBA, when you're up against a bunch of other good teams, it needs to make sense. You need to have situations where the players work together, and I don't know that that's the case on this Kings team. So we've got to try and decipher whatever that mess is, and then figure out how to translate that into fantasy value across multiple league types, which is what we're here to do today, to talk about this Kings team and figure out if there is any value, where it is, or what we're avoiding, and how cautious we're being with some of these players. Let's go into what I think is going to be the projected starting group on this team. I don't think there's too much debate about this. I know that some will suggest that Malik Monk, why wouldn't he start? Well, he wouldn't start because he was benched down the stretch last season, and they signed Dennis Schröder, aggressively approached signing Dennis Schröder because they wanted him to be their starting point guard, is what I have been told. So I think it's going to be Schröder, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray, and Domantas Sabonis. You could make an argument, or maybe they'll convince DeRozan to come off the bench. Sure, good luck. Maybe that would be interesting. I don't think it's going to happen. And that's where I get into this roster making very little sense. Because three of their players in their rotation should be Malik Monk, Keon Ellis, and Devin Carter. All of whom have played minutes at point guard and shooting guard. They're all sort of combo guards, which doesn't make sense when Schröder and LaVine are in your starting group already. There's no real forwards on this team, and that's why I think Nick Clifford is going to have to get into the rotation early on. Now, he may be very far from ready, but their forward depth is Nick Clifford and then Doug McDermott. Like, this roster is bad. Like, some of the guys that sit at the back end after these 10 guys, my rotation is Monk, Ellis, Clifford, Devin Carter, then it's Dario Saric, who gets his third opportunity in 3 seasons to prove that he's a backup center. I wonder how long this one lasts before he gets overtaken by Maxime Reynaud or Drew Eubanks. I don't think it'll be long, but I do think they'll give Saric the first opportunity after, for whatever reason, they traded away Jonas Valanciunas, a very much far superior backup center, to get Saric in. So, again, why? Like, there are other players on this roster after these 12 guys. There's the 2 other centers in Reynaud and Eubanks, and then it's McDermott and Daquan Plowden and Dylan Cardwell and Isaac Jones and Isaiah Stevens and Terrence Davis, and you're going to be going, who? Yeah, exactly. It's not, like, it doesn't make sense. You've got all these centers, all these point guards, and then nothing. So when you're talking about, maybe I'll take a crack at Keon Ellis, or maybe I love drafting Malik Monk in the 80s. I don't see the minutes. Schröder, LaVine, Monk, and Ellis. LaVine theoretically can push up to the 3, that's true. But the other 3 have to play the 1 or the 2. So how do we find enough minutes for all of that to work? And that's not even including Devin Carter in that mix, and 0 minutes for Clifford playing the 2, where he's probably better as a 3-2, Nick Clifford. But there is no opportunity for him to do this really on this team. So it is a team that is a mess in terms of construction, a mess in terms of what they've done with someone like Malik Monk after him signing a below-market deal, then them sort of just putting him into a large roster. He was awesome at it last season, and they said, nah, we're good, and we'll try to dump you for anything. to create room for Kuminga, to sign Schröder, to bring in Russell Westbrook, whatever decisions they were trying to make. The relationship seems pretty sour. And then Keon Ellis last season, we saw him go from starting games, then 20 minutes, and then DNPs. It was all over the shop. It is Kings. It is very Kings. What about some other questions regarding the projections? What do we need to be cautious of? Well, I've already touched on that first one. Is like, how do all those guards fit? Is Schröder, as a starting point guard, going to play 30 minutes? Or is he 28 minutes? Is Monk, who was great down the stretch, going to play 30, or does he play 26? And that's where you get into the problems with trying to project like the value of these guys, is that you're in a situation where it's just not ideal. When Fox was traded last season, Malik Monk stepped up and he was awesome. He was rolling close to top 50 for a big period of time. And this is when you're looking at this team and you look at their season-long stats, it is hard to judge because there was a huge trade in the middle of the season. De'Aaron Fox was gone. Zach LaVine came in. It shuffled everything around. Monk played 32 minutes a night last season. He was a top 80 player overall. He was 82nd in points leagues. He averaged 17, 4, and 5.5. He shot only 33% from 3, so theoretically this could all be a lot better. He had 25 usage. But I'll be buggered if I can find out how he's going to play 32 minutes with the way this roster's set up outside of injuries. So I don't get it. And then, like, are you trying to, like, is there any defense with Schröder, LaVine? Schröder's an okay defender. LaVine, no. DeRozan, no. Keegan Murray, pretty good defender, but Sabonis, terrible. So you want to get Devin Carter in there, or you want to get Keon Ellis in there. Like, how do you do it? How do you find enough minutes unless players get cut back? And I just don't see it with Monk as much as I'd want to see it with Monk. And I do like what he does for fantasy. And his values have come back a little bit now, although he's still ranked 86 on ESPN. Yahoo's pushed him out to 127, which is more reasonable. And that's fine if you want to take a flyer on him there. But otherwise, it's a messy scenario. What about Doug Christie and pace? The Kings, when they had the light the beam season, they just lit up the league by playing at a breakneck, frantic pace. And that was under Mike Brown, obviously. But then, even under Mike Brown, we saw this team's pace decrease. We went, okay, what are they doing? This is how they had success. This is why we loved a lot of the fantasy stuff on that team, is they played at a high pace. And they brought it down. And then last season, they had a pace of about 100. Except, under Doug Christie, it was 97. So, at that peak, that light the beam team, I think they were a 103, 104 pace team. You're talking 7 possessions fewer now per game. I don't know if they're a 97 pace team again, if that's what they're going to do, but that is what they did. So that's what happens when you bring in a DeMar DeRozan. That's what happens when you remove De'Aaron Fox, and there might be a part of that that's Doug Christie too. And if there are 7 possessions fewer per game versus peak Kings, or even lower than what we saw overall last season, it does hurt all the fantasy numbers. I touched on this already, but like the forwards, there's nobody, which theoretically should be a boost for someone like Keegan Murray. Well, that's not true because DeRozan's strictly a forward now, but he's not going to be a good player in terms of defending forwards. That's not who he is. Keegan Murray is one of their only forwards, but look at his usage last season. 15%. He played 34 minutes. He was 110th in category leagues, 118th in points leagues. He averaged 12 and 7 with almost a steal, almost a block. But since that 40% shooting season as a rookie, he's been quite bad. 34% from 3. And I was skeptical of his shooting as a rookie, and it just kept being good, so I was wrong on that. But overall, I think I was right to be skeptical on a lot of the stuff that he's done. I do think that there might be some value in Keegan this season, but for him to ever become a top 50 player, and there is a possibility of it, it needs to be on 20 usage, and there's just no way he's being able to do that. So that makes it quite tough. And then, like, how do they prioritize usage? Because DeMar DeRozan, he's a usage guy. Domantas Sabonis, he's not really a usage guy, but he does need the ball in his hands. Zach LaVine is a usage guy. Dennis Schröder is somewhat of a usage guy. Malik Monk is a usage guy. I think that overall we'll see DeRozan and LaVine with the highest usage, but I don't think anyone's getting 25 usage, I don't think anyone's getting 30 usage. I think LaVine and DeRozan will be 25, 26, Monk around 24, 25. Sabonis is probably under 23 usage, maybe even under 22. Murray's going to be very low in his usage number. But yeah, Schröder's around that 20 mark, but this is what I mean. Like, usage is shot attempts and turnovers. But it's also like indirectly, not exactly, but who is going to be initiating? Because DeRozan gets a lot of his value from assists. Sabonis gets his value from assists. Zach LaVine gives you nice out-of-position assists. Dennis Schröder's only value is going to come from assists. Malik Monk got a boost last season because of assists. They're not all going to do that. They can't all do that. So how do they prioritize where the ball is? And that's why I think so many of these guys are overvalued. Because they can't all do the same thing. Somebody has to lose out. And because there is only one ball. So to take the shots, to distribute the ball, either one person leans heavily into being a distributor, knocking his usage back and assist rate up, and everyone else loses assist, or it's spread everywhere and everyone falls back. So I think that some of the projection and ranking stuff on them is too high because of that one ball idea. We're going to come back and talk about undervalued players, not many of them, overvalued players, quite a few, for this Sacramento Kings team. Today's episode, though, it is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, you put down $5. You win the bet, you get $300 in bonus bets, and you can use that right across the app. You can use it when you're watching football. You can use it with basketball, even preseason games. You can use it on futures. You can use it on the baseball playoffs. You can use it on player props, on same-game parlays. Use your bonus bets when you win that first $5 bet right across that FanDuel app and put your skills to the test. So what are you waiting for? Go to FanDuel.com and download the FanDuel app today to get started. What are you really gambling with? We're here talking about this Sacramento Kings team for the upcoming NBA season 25-26 and taking a look at where some of the fantasy value may fit. And again, we'll go into some underrated players, but honestly, the only guy that I can even find any real level of being underrated is Keegan Murray. And even then, that's a little tough to see. Murray is, I think, for Yahoo and Fantrax, being underdrafted. His Fantrax ADP is 109. His Yahoo rank is 116 with an ADP of 106. I do think that Keegan can be perhaps in the top 100, so it's not a big difference, but it's enough of a difference that on a team like this that he stands out to me where I go, okay, maybe we get into that, and maybe we consider him if we're looking for a steal and a block guy with pretty solid rebounds at the end of a draft, and we hope that some of the shooting numbers improve because they were quite poor last season. Where the real action is on this team is in the overvalue guys, and there's a lot of them. I am not in on Domantas Sabonis this season. I know there'll be a lot of people who'd be like, that's crazy, Josh. You should be taking him in the first round. He's the 10th ranked player, whatever you want to say. I just don't believe in that for numerous reasons. He, to me, I've got him in like a third round, 30 to 40s range for category leagues and points leagues in the around 20 for points leagues, right? But he is positioned just too high. He's like ranked 13th on Yahoo. He's 13th on ESPN categories. He's 9th in ESPN points. I don't know. Last season, once Zach LaVine arrived, he did have a hamstring injury, that is true, and they moved his minutes back a little bit to like 32, I think he played in that stretch. But he was nowhere near a first-round player. Like, not even close. Over the last 20 games of last season, he was the 40th ranked player for ESPN points leagues. For category leagues, he was around the same. He lost a lot. And yeah, look, he only played 31, 32 minutes there, but his usage was not particularly high. We saw the assist numbers get lower. He's never giving you defensive stats. Everything was just down. He averaged over his last 19 games 15.7 points. And as you're aware, that's terrible. So even like in a category league, if you're taking Domantas on the turn, you're basically punting points because he's not going to score 20 a game. And everyone else around that area is 24. He's getting you not enough threes. He shot the three ball well last season. I don't know that he's going to do that again. In fact, I'd be relatively surprised if he shoots it at the level that he did last season, where it was at like 44% on low volume. I just think that that the impact of a full season of LaVine and a change, I guess, in something of the numbers is going to be impactful. Now, look, you can narrow it down to the last 8 games of last season, the last 2 weeks, where he went back and shot 61% from the field, somehow hit 85% from the line, and was at 54% from 3. Obviously a fake number in there somewhere, yeah? And you go, well, why couldn't he be back to being a first-round guy? I'm not going to believe that he is a shooting, or the true shooting. What do you have, 67% on 85 from the line, hitting 54 from 3? Like, that's not real. He's not a volume 3-point shooter. He's going to be likely a negative in free throws. 3-pointers made, steals, blocks, and below average contributor, and then points for that portion of the draft, not very good. So he's a rebounds guy and assist guy with good field goal percentage. And if the threes do drop, then the field goal percentage drops as well. So I'm just not investing in him that high. And I understand there will be pushback on that. I get that. That's okay. I just, the fit of all those guys together makes it hard for me to feel invested. LaVine, I also think, is being positioned just way too high on this squad. LaVine is like going in the 60s or 50s in a lot of spots. To me, he's more of an 80s guy. Like, again, you will say, Josh, why is that? You have to share the ball. In Chicago, it was him. There was a little bit of Kobe White. Giddey was doing nothing. LaVine came over and he shot the ball unbelievably well. Just for the whole season, he shot 45% from three. In the last 2 weeks of the season, much like with old mate Sabonis, he was at like 56 or 53%. He also played an astonishing 38 minutes a night when he came over in those last couple of weeks. Like, he was playing gigantic minutes as they were pushing for the play-in, and he scored really well. But I'm not buying that shooting. Will he handle the ball much at all? Because he averaged 3.7 assists in the final 27 games of last season. He's a subpar rebounder with no defensive stats. In fact, I believe, I'm going to double check this, he had 1 block in the last 2 months of the season. Not that you care about him for blocks, but 1? Like, sometimes, like, give me something, somewhere. And part of the value that LaVine had last season was in his field goal percentage at 51%. He was 45 the year before, 48 the year before, 48 the year before. What's more realistic, that he goes from 51 or higher, or he pulls back? And then we see how the usage goes, how the ball handling rate goes, and I'm just not taking him in that spot. I told you I think Keegan Murray's undervalued, but in points leagues, no. I don't think he's undervalued. In points leagues, he sits with an ADP of 106. I think he's like a 130s guy in Yahoo points where volume rules. Not interested. And then DeRozan, across all category leagues and in ESPN points, I think DeMar is being overrated. He's got a rank of 56 on Yahoo. He's got an ADP of 40 on ESPN. His points league rank on ESPN is 32. I'm absolutely not interested in that because it's a lot of the same stuff. DeRozan is going to be a solid scorer. He had more inconsistency that we've seen in the past with his shooting numbers. He was down to 48% from the field overall, but over the final 2 months of the season, 45%. His free throws over the final 18 games was at 79% for some reason. I don't know why it got bad, but that's what I mean by inconsistency. He never gets steals. His steal numbers were comically bad. Like, he was at 0.4 for the final half of the season for steals, 0.4. And yeah, he hit like the most threes he's ever hit. But will he continue to get you 5 assists a game? I'm not sure. That's, again, where we tie it all in. And I'm not investing a 60s pick on DeRozan, a 60s pick on LaVine, a top 10 or 12 pick on Sabonis when I think there's just too much risk with all of those guys. I also think that, Malik Monk is being overrated. As much as I think that Monk can be valuable, like, he's at 93 on ESPN points leagues, and I just don't think he's going to play enough. And then Dennis Schröder sits for category leagues at a spot where he is positioned too high. 112 on Yahoo, 128 on ESPN. I'm not even sure that he's draftable, to be honest. I get it as a starting point guard, but Schröder's success in recent years has been point guard with high usage on bad team. He will not have high usage. The team is sort of bad, but by bad, I mean you are the only guy. And he is like Sabonis, LaVine, DeRozan, even throw Monk in there. That's where Schröder fits, like, in that pecking order. So what's he going to do? I just don't see any real appeal in looking at Dennis Schröder as a, even though, again, starting point guard is great. Like, it's solid, fantastic, whatever. Like, it's hard to find those guys. But if he's getting 7 assists a game, that means that DeRozan, LaVine, and Sabonis are dropping way off. If he's averaging 18 points, that means that Monk and LaVine and DeRozan and even Sabonis is pushed back to 15 a game or something stupid like that. I just don't get the fit of Schröder on this team. Like, what's he doing? Is he ever handling the ball? Does he ever have usage? Is he ever shooting? Is he passing it? Is he just giving it to Sabonis for cheap dribble handoff, triple doubles? I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. Does he even play 30 minutes a night? Maybe. He might not. They might want to get Ellis, Carter, Monk into that role. And I thought maybe things would open up if they did trade Monk away to get a forward in Kuminga, but no. So all the guards are still there. So I just don't really see the appeal in taking these guys because there's just too much cannibalization. Now, if I'm telling you that I'm thinking that DeRozan, Sabonis, LaVine, Schröder, Monk are all overrated, it's probably unlikely that all of them end up being busts. It's very unlikely. It's more likely that one of them is successful and the others don't hit. But I don't know who that is, and I don't know how they're going to distribute that. So therefore, I don't really want to take risks on these guys. Now again, if LaVine sits there at 85, I'll take him, and DeRozan there, no worries. If Sabonis is in the 20s or 30s, I'll consider that. But at the premium level of like 55 or 11 for Sabonis, I'm not touching that. We'll come back and talk about breakout possibilities, injury updates, all that stuff. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth. It might be 401ks or properties or investments. That's why when you have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. So if you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. It does the heavy lifting for you, linking all of your accounts in minutes so you can see the clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNBA. We're talking Sacramento Kings and the fantasy value in the upcoming NBA season. So let's take a look at some guys that I think I'm going to classify as maybe stars with top 50 value. And to me, it is only Sabonis. I don't think that LaVine or DeRozan are getting there. I definitely don't think that Schröder, Murray, or Monk are getting there. To me, the only top 50 player here is Domantas Sabonis. And as I said, I'm already well down on him anyway. Not valuing him as a first-round guy, not even as a second-round guy outside of points leagues. Category leagues, I just think there are too many downsides to what he does that I don't want to be. And one thing I will say about him is the out-of-position assists with high field goal percentage is a pretty rare combo. It is a pretty rare combo, but there is a difference between getting him and averaging 18 or 19 points than getting Jokic and getting 27 points. There's a difference between Jokic maybe getting you 10 assists and Sabonis getting you 7. There's a difference between Jokic maybe getting you 1.5 steals and Sabonis getting you 0.8. There's a difference between Jokic hitting 83 from the line and Sabonis hitting 73. Like, these are all big differences. And that's, while it can be good to look at, while big man rebound assists, the difference is pretty stark. So I would be pushing him down, but top 50, absolutely, yes, for Domantas Sabonis. New arrivals on this team, we've talked about Schröder already. I loved their move for trading up to get Nick Clifford, who has shown an ability to fit in multiple spots. High usage, defensive guy, three-point shooter, ball handler. He can do all of those things in separate instances. Now, the opportunity for him, obviously, as a rookie is not really that high because you're playing behind the names LaVine, DeRozan, Schröder, Monk, Ellis, Murray. But they're going to need him to do something. And he's just a name to watch as an older rookie. And older rookies, the rule of them being NBA ready is not true. But it's more that there's just a path that he's got to play. He's got to play minutes because they don't have forwards. They don't have anyone that fills those roles. I think he could be a good player. I think he will be a good player, and I like where they got him. But we just got to watch how that looks. Dario Saric is a new arrival. I think they will give him a crack at being the backup center. I think that relatively quickly Maxime Reynaud will take over that spot. Reynaud was a 20-10 guy at Stanford who did up his rim protection numbers at the end of the season. He shoots the three ball pretty well. And honestly, I think there'll be moments if they want to go double big that he will work next to Sabonis, sort of. He is one to watch for those deeper leagues. At the moment, he might be the fourth stringer behind Saric and Drew Eubanks, who's a new arrival here too. But Reynaud is, as a second-round pick, an interesting player who could actually be like a solid enough fit next to DeRozan, next to Murray, next to LaVine, even more so than Sabonis is. So he's someone that I am paying attention to. I think they did well with that. The other new guys, they got Daquan Plowden is here, Dylan Cardwell on a two-way, and Isaiah Stevens also on a two-way. And I don't think we're going to have to be talking about those guys very much. Well, hopefully not. In terms of breakouts, I actually don't think that any of these guys are breakouts, but if I have to scour the roster for somebody who could do that, it's Keon Ellis and Keegan Murray. Ellis, we know that the situation with him. I think we know the situation with him. What does he do? He is a guy that delivers steals in really high numbers. Like, that's his strength. He is a big steals guy. He's a good out-of-position shot blocker. He's actually quite a good three-point shooter. Now, he is not really a point guard. His point guard skills are not there, but I would make the argument if you're going to play with LaVine and DeRozan and Sabonis, and who cares? I would much rather they start him over Schröder because his defensive ability and three-point shooting is better than Schröder's. And you don't need a traditional point guard as much as they might think that you do. And that's why I question this franchise. Oh, we really need that traditional point guard. Do ya? Do ya? Then what's the point of everyone else? Ellis last season averaged 1.5 steals and 0.8 blocks in 24 minutes. He was not that good in points leagues, but he's solid in category leagues. And if he was to play 26 minutes, we'd be drafting him everywhere. But I really don't see how it's possible. He hit 43% on his threes. You want him to take a little bit more, but still decent volume. He's just going to be an incredibly low usage player, and I don't really see how that's changing. So what he's going to be is more of a steals streamer who gets you some threes and out of position blocks for this season, unless some wild stuff changes, and maybe it does. That's where it sits. In terms of injuries at the moment, which is great news, it's clean. There's nobody we're worried about injury-wise, and their schedule is very vanilla. No interesting playoff stuff. There are 14 back-to-backs. That's not the most. It's not the least. It's just nothing scheduled that shouldn't impact your drafting of this team whatsoever. What should impact your drafting is the front office, the coach that I'm not sure is good, the misdirection of this team. Does Scott Perry pack it in? Does he start trading guys away? Does any of this stuff fit together? So again, I think that most of these players are overrated. I am not going to be drafting Sabonis in almost any league. To me, he is a second-round points league guy and probably a third-round category guy. Understand that if you want to take him at the end of the second round, do it, even though there are pretty big reservations. LaVine and DeRozan, I think they're more 80s versus 50s. Monk, I wish I saw the minutes. Schröder needs the ball, won't get it. Ellis, not going to play enough. Murray, in a category league, I can see why you would go a little earlier on him, but otherwise, not really. We keep an eye on Clifford. We keep an eye on the Monk scenario. We keep an eye on Reynaud to see what he does as the backup center, if he can ever work into that role. But otherwise, this team it's relatively stable in terms of the roles of those guys. It's relatively shallow, so chaos could break loose if there are injuries. And there's just a lot of guys that are overrated in fantasy for whatever reason. We'll do the Spurs next, so stick around. That'll come out soonish. I don't know when. It'll come out at some point. But thumb up the video. You'll never miss it if you do. Subscribe, and if you're on the YouTube mobile app, give us a hype as well. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.